Breaking news coming in, the declaration has been adopted. In fact, SCO members have condemned terrorism. It says that attack sponsors must be brought to justice. So clearly a win for India. Firm commitment in fight against terrorism is what the declaration says. Remember, Tianjin Declaration has now been signed and adopted. Breaking news coming in at this point. Tianjin's strong stance against terrorism. In the SCO declaration, the member states strongly condemned the terrorist attack in Pahalgam. Remember, this happened on 22nd of April. The members expressed their deepest sympathy and condolences to the families of those who got killed and got wounded in the attack. They further stated that perpetrators, organizers and sponsors, all of them of such attacks must be brought to justice. In fact, the member states, while reaffirming their firm commitment to the fight against terrorism, separatism and extremism, also stress the inadmissibility of attempts to use terrorist, separatist and extremist groups for mercenary purposes. They recognize the leading role of sovereign states and their competent authorities in countering such threats. In fact, the member states strongly condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, stressing that double standards in the fight against terrorism are completely unacceptable. They also called on the international community to combat terrorism, including cross-border movements of terrorists. So, sort of recognizing India's initiatives also, the declaration echoes the theme of one earth, one family and one future. The member states also welcomed the results of the 5th SCO Startup Forum in deepening cooperation in the field of scientific and technical achievements and innovation. So these are the other sectors in which member states have now given out their final statements. They also noted the holding of the 20th meeting of the SCO Think Tank Forum. And further, they also noted the contribution of the SCO Study Centre at the Indian Council for World Affairs in strengthening the cultural and humanitarian exchanges. So these are the crucial details we're getting in about Tianjin's declaration, which has been now adopted by the member states. Now, my colleague Varghese Ibrahim is joining me on this from Newsroom. Varghese, this seems to be a clear win for India. We just heard the Prime Minister talking about that how there are red lines. There has to be zero tolerance against terrorism, and now declaration also echoing the same lines. Walk us through the details of this.
Well, if you look at the manner in which this declaration has been reached, it is kind of a coup that India has pulled up at the SCO. Last time, we know that there was no signature, there was no signing of that declaration in Tianjin, and therefore there was no proper statement that had come out, though the same issues of terrorism was in fact raised. Here, the Prime Minister had raised about cross-border terrorism. He's spoken about sponsors of terrorism and that terror is a big threat to peace. And it looks like the SCO countries have come together and they have in fact signed and adopted the very fact that terrorism is a cornerstone of something that they have to address, and therefore a joint action should be taken to it. Now, it is a big diplomatic coup d'etat for Indian diplomacy when we in fact look at it, because the manner in which we were able to in fact get a grouping that did not want to take sides with regard to Pahalgam to come onto our side and in fact listen to what we had to say, that itself is a diplomatic coup d'etat we have in fact carried out, where we have ensured that the SCO, in which Pakistan itself is present, by the way. Shiva Sharif is in full attendance of the in the SCO Summit, where Pakistan is present and the Pakistani Premier is also present, and they in front of them this has been in fact taken, which in fact shows that India has been able to ensure that the majority members of the SCO do in fact go with the line that India has been asking, that is that terrorism shouldn't have double standards. The perpetrators of terror should be cracked down on, and cross-border terror is also to be recognized as a form of terrorism that creates instability. So all these aspects of it has been taken in that declaration. We had seen last time there was no signature that was put on that dotted line, but this time it has been signed and adopted. So that is something that we have been able to achieve in Tianjin, and this SCO, as I said, this 25th SCO Summit for India goes as a watershed moment on several fronts, and this is just one of those moments in that meeting that we are in fact looking at, where probably we have seen the collective effort on India's diplomatic corps and the Prime Minister in fact having been able to get something so substantial from this SCO Summit.
Right, Verghese, clearly a very powerful movement for India at this point. Now, I want to ask you, we had China supporting Pakistan during the Operation Sindoor, but after that, we have seen, some thawing taking place. Yesterday, we saw positive bilateral coming out. So, do you think now with this statement coming out, we will see, China actually moving closer towards India?
Well, see, it is a complexity of geopolitics that is at play. If there is some kind of an alignment that probably everyone is speaking about, like a troika of sorts happening, well, it's the reason for it has been Trump and Trump alone. And that is because he's been able to push India into Chinese orbit. But clearly, India has again spoken about its strategic autonomy when it comes to ties with countries, and therefore from non-aligned, what we call as multi-alignment is what we are looking at, saying that we have interests that converge with different countries. That doesn't mean that we will not in fact have engagements with them and be just part of a group taking a diktat from a powerful country who's leading that group. Well, that is not how our foreign policy works, but for some people it has been seen as fence sitting, and for them they don't understand that it is the strategic move of our country to ensure that we are multi-aligned, and that is how our history has been. Our experience is what has in fact shaped the multi-alignment, the multi-alignment procedure that we in fact follow in foreign relations. But that has not something that has gone down well with the United States, and Trump's tariffs is something that has pushed us further into a certain section with regard to Asian pivot that we can in fact call, where the Asian countries are now emerging on its own, and therefore a non-Western grouping is what we are looking, probably acting as a counterpillar to the American EU axis that happens or has been there for World War I onwards in the Atlantic, and we are challenging that particular axis in that regard. But how far it is going to go, well, we will come to know only in the coming days whether the RIC could in fact emerge as it's supposed to emerge. And with this particular declaration, especially when it comes to the terrorism front, it is something that shows that China has also probably decided to give some kind of space for India to express itself within the SCO and to accommodate the concerns of New Delhi as of now.